Chances are, if you're over the age of 20, your first phone looked a little something like this. However, if you aren't, it could have looked like this, or this, or this, or this, or many more. The realm of children's phones is huge. There are so many options with so many different types, different brands, different styles, whether you wear them or you hold them or something else. It's a crazy world. And you've got to figure what factors make a kid's phone good. The price, the size, the features, the parental controls, so many factors. While I grew up in the smartphone age, I'm sure that many of you did not. So to honor that, I'll go over a little bit of the history of children's phones. As most of us know, cell phones weren't very popular until the 1990s. So, as you can imagine, cell phones for kids weren't popular for much later. They started becoming somewhat popular in the mid to late 2000s. Many early models, including this one, were very small, had a small screen and a couple of buttons. Their sole purpose was calling. Very few could text, if at all. It took quite a while for there to be massive change in the kids' phone world, and I'm sure that a lot of you, if you're around my age, have seen the movie Diary of a Wimpy Kid, which featured this.
It doesn't have a keypad.
Yes, it's a starter phone. You can call home or 911.
Can't even lie, I kind of wanted one when I was little. Anyway, kids' phones evolved to become wearable because, let's be real, small children don't really do very well when keeping track of small objects. Something that became very popular were kids' smartwatches. One example is this, the Verizon Gizmo watch. There have been many models of that watch before and after, but that one was mine from when I was about 9. And now something that's grown more popular are Android phones being rebranded and sold with built-in parental controls. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself, so let's rewind a little bit and start at smartwatches. When I was younger, there were a lot of children's smartwatches, but most of them did not have cellular capabilities. I remember being very fond of these VTech ones. I had one when I was younger, but I don't have it anymore. They were usually pretty big, pretty bulky, and didn't really do much except have some little games, and I know mine had a camera, which it's up to the parent if you want to have your child roaming around with a camera, but hey, it's kind of neat. There are a ton of these types of devices out there. There's some that are smaller, like fitness bands, like this Garmin one, which I also had when I was younger. And they don't really do many useful things. I think that the idea is to make kids feel older, because I know that a lot of kids like to mimic their parents. So if their parents had something like an Apple Watch, a kid could wear one of these doohickeys and then imagine that they're like their parents. They weren't really a serious thing and they didn't have contact with the outside world. But now in 2026, most of the options that I can find are usually in 3 categories. You get carrier branded watches, premium branded watches, and budget branded watches. And let me break this down. I'll start with carrier ones. As I mentioned before, Verizon has had a lineup called the Gizmo watch. There are 2 currently available models and they're around $100. The one that I had could make calls, make texts using only either presets or voice functionality, and it had a couple of activities but no real games. I believe at least one of the current models has a camera. I think you can video call using it, but I'm not sure how well that would work on such a small screen. T-Mobile and AT&T also have relatively similar watches for relatively similar prices. They're all pretty average looking, and something that I found is that these watches are usually very bulky. This is what it looks like when I'm wearing my Verizon Gizmo watch, which they don't have this model, but they're close enough, compared to my Apple Watch Series 10 46mm size. Now let's keep in mind that I am a 6-foot tall man, and these are oriented to children. This is huge. I remember it being huge when I was younger. I'm pretty sure most of the size is due to durability, but I mean, it's just huge, and it's a little unwieldy for smaller children. This size issue goes for basically any other watch I'll mention except for the premium branded ones. I find it kind of weird that only the premium companies have smaller size watches, but whatever. The random lower end watches come in many shapes and sizes. I put in quite a bit of time researching, and these are the best ones I was able to find. This one is called the TikTok, and it's $150. It's rugged looking and pretty ugly. And from my research, I was able to find that it seems like one of the older children's phone brands was called TikTok, but I'm not sure if they're the same brand. This one is called the My First Phone. I found it for $140, and likewise it is rugged and pretty ugly. It's this really strange round shape that I can't imagine any even kid would enjoy. Likewise, this is the Nick watch. It's $50 and also a very strange circular shape. On the upper end, there's the Fitbit Ace and Garmin Bounce. The Fitbit is Google's offering. I'll get to the premium brands, so this is what Google's entry would be, and it hovers in the price range of about $100. This one is the Garmin Bounce. It's $150, and it looks rugged, but is the better looking of the more rugged ones. Out of all of these, I'd recommend the Fitbit one the most. I think it looks the best and is likely to have the best looking interface, considering it's made by Google, who makes Android. And if you have an Android phone, that is a pretty strong competitor. I hinted at the premium ones a couple of times, and these are either Apple or Samsung. I have seen a very high uptick in the last couple years of children with Apple Watches. They're usually the cellular model SE, but you could technically do this children's setup on any cellular Apple Watch, which I guess includes the Apple Watch Ultra, but I mean, come on. Samsung will apparently allow you to do this on their Galaxy watches. I don't have one to test it on, and I've never seen this, but admittedly, where I live, not very many people use Samsung phones, let alone give their kids Samsung products. And if you were wondering, Google does not have this feature for their Pixel watches. Both the Apple and Samsung ones are around $250, but there's plenty of sales, at least for the Apple Watch SE. They have largely different feature sets, and I'd say the most complete ones are, of course, the Apple and Samsung ones. But with that completeness leads to more functionality that you may not want as a parent. They all have various levels of waterproofing, which if you have a kid that likes going in the pool, then I would recommend looking for one that's waterproof, because I'm sure that children will forget to take these off. All in all, if you're looking to get your child one of these cellular watches, it's really a case of personal preference. First of all, if you want to get a carrier branded watch, you're basically just going to go for whichever one works with your carrier. You can't get an AT&T watch to use with Verizon and vice versa. If you're going to get a premium watch, it's more likely you're going to get the one that works with your phone. I mean, you can't use an Apple Watch on a Samsung and vice versa. And if you want to get any of those other lower end ones, it's more going to be a question of price. If you can afford one or warrant one, depending on how clumsy and responsible your child is. And one thing to keep in mind, cellular watch plans are generally cheaper than phone lines, and those cellular branded watches can usually be found much cheaper if you bundle it with a new line. But personally, my recommendation, if you don't want to get one of the carrier branded ones, is an Apple Watch SE with cellular or the Fitbit Ace. They're both guaranteed to have decent software and should be a good choice for your kid. But that's just my 2 cents. Now getting into phones. These are a little bit more questionable for children because with a smartwatch, you're limited just by the form factor and the software. On a phone, you can download any app, access the entirety of the internet, but with parental controls, these things can be restricted. Before I continue, I'd like to mention the late iPod Touch. The iPod Touch was kind of the original kid's phone. It wasn't a phone, didn't have cellular, but it was shaped like one, and many kids had iPod Touches. They don't make them anymore, so I guess technically you could find an old one for your kid, but good luck installing apps on iOS 15 if you get the newest iPod Touch. Moving on, there are two categories of these kids' phones: cellular capable and non-cellular capable. I'll go over the non-cellular ones real quick. They're basically just these little VTech or leapfrog devices that are like small iPads. They're usually on some fork of Android and don't really do much. They're usually pretty low powered, have very brightly colored casing, and aren't very appealing in general. There are these, which if you search on Amazon, kids phones, these show up. I don't see a reason to buy one of these, quite frankly. And one of the most common things is giving a child an old iPhone or Android phone without a SIM. Getting into cellular phones, your main options are going to be either a normal phone from a normal company like a iPhone 17e or Samsung A series phone, or specific kid phones. These are really interesting. Upon researching, I found 4 main brands: Gab, Bark, TrueMe, and Thrive. The ones I put in quotes are a little bit more questionable. I didn't see as much about them, and Gab and Bark are the more respected couple. Both Gab and Bark have a very similar business model. They will repackage budget Android phones, usually low-end Samsungs, put their own logo on it, and put specialized parental control software on them. They aren't too expensive, but I'm sure you could find the original phones they were based on for quite a bit cheaper. These tend to be marketed pretty heavily as well. On TikTok and I guess Instagram, I've seen quite a few ads for Gab and Bark phones. They're usually advertised as just the easiest thing, where you can buy it, set it up for your kid, and boom, parental controls up the wazoo. I can't really go out and say they're bad. I don't have any personal experience with these devices, just what I was able to research online. I do find them a little bit strange as a tech enthusiast because, I mean, at their core, they are just rebranded existing phones, but they definitely have an audience. For the more tech-oriented, iPhones come built in with screen time, which is a pretty heavy suite of parental controls, which you may not have imagined. It's very hard to break screen time without knowing the passcode that the parent sets. With screen time, you can limit basically anything. Anything you can imagine on a phone can be limited with screen time. For Android, Google has an equivalent called Family Link. As far as I know, it operates basically the same, but again, I don't use an Android phone, so I don't know. On that topic, would you be interested in a video where I switch to an Android phone for a week and see how I like it? Comment down below. One thing brought up very often when looking at kids' phones is what age do you get one at? And that is 100% up to the parent based on how responsible their child is. It's going to be a balance between parental controls and child responsibility. Personally, I didn't usually overstep my boundaries when I was a child. If I was given a parental limit, I generally followed it. But not all children are the same. But if as a parent you want to give your child access to those things, then power to you. I can't control what you do, it's completely up to you. Either way, I would recommend something like an iPhone SE, but they don't make those anymore. So I guess it would be the 17e, which is kind of expensive. So it's kind of a weird area now, but I would check what you can get with a new line on your carrier. Most often, most carriers will allow you to open a new line and pick out a free phone. It's not all the time, but sometimes. Overall, deciding between a smartwatch for your kid or a smartphone is 100% up to the parent. There are quite a few cool ones on either end of the spectrum, and it all depends on what you can afford and what you think your child is ready for. I can't tell you how to parent, I'm just here to provide my thoughts on the tech. Once again though, if I had to pick one perfect option out of every kid's phone, I would pick an Apple Watch. That's all I'm saying. But I kinda think you should get this Ladybug phone. I don't know. Greg didn't like it, but I think it's cool. But that is gonna do it for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you got something out of this, and get excited because in 2 weeks from today, I'm going over how the iPod is coming back into culture today, and I think that's a really cool video, so get excited. Make sure to like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe if you want to see more by me. And I've been Tyler. Thank you for checking into Tyler Film Company, and I will see you in the next video.